People don't mind politics. People want to see good, entertaining movies. Hello there. I know you've probably missed me because I'm not active for the past week because of personal reasons, but I saw a lot of stuff about this article lately and I actually read it and I have to comment because it's a very weird, the cult of Alita, Battle Angel, blah blah blah. And it's kind of interesting. I've watched the Alita movie. There is an older review in my channel about it. I really loved it, but then I didn't do any more videos because I was not that interested in doing another video of, oh, we're going to see a sequel for sure, because I'm not sure it will be it'll be feasible. To be honest, I would love to see a sequel, many sequels for the movie. I really loved it, and I know that the press didn't give it justice, to be honest. And there is this article on Independent, a British newspaper, that has some very controversial views about the movie. Not about the movie, about the fandom around the movie. And I know there are channels out there who do lots of Alita Army videos, and I watch some of them, to be honest. I'm really interested to know if there is a sequel or not. And okay, it's interesting. It's written by Adam White, and well, it says that in May there was a tweet from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for the Oscars and asked for recommendations. And many people commented about The Battle Angel, which was well, in other years, people would consider it a flop. In 2019, with the box office returns of many movies, it's $400 million revenue out of $170 million budget is probably okay, I guess. And it's unusual for the reporter because this movie was directed by Robert Rodriguez. It was contributed and produced by James Cameron of Avatar, Titanic, and Terminator fame. Dropped out of cultural consciousness, which is not quite true. If you want to compare Alita Battle Angel to other movies, I would say it's more like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, or like Mad Max Fury Road. Very popular movies. Geeks enjoyed them, loved them. They had a huge cultural impact on the geekdom, but they never met more widespread success. And it's the fact that the movie is not being streamed or on DVD for so long didn't help at all. But there is a strong support for Alita Battle Angel because, to be honest, it was a great movie. And he says that this devotion only became more pronounced in the month since. There was a lot of outlet support. And that's weird. For the writer, for me it's not. Geeks, people who are of a geeky persuasion, love to talk about the movies they love. They want to share it with others. That's why you get a very voracious fandom in a year that most fandoms have disappointed people, like Star Wars, which has a very divided fan base at the moment. And I can see why, to be fair. And well, the MCU fandom, which reigns supreme, but the MCU is reaching a soft end point, and some of the And of course, the writer says politics behind the fan base, which is, well, I wouldn't say this thing. Okay, I know there are many conservative people on the Alita army. There are lots of videos of outrage against Disney or Star Wars and Captain Marvel, among other movies they did. And there is some conspiracy theories out there too. But the writer of this article really gets it. There's a very good casting. There are Oscar winners like Mahershala Ali, Christoph Waltz, and Jennifer Connelly. It's a zipping, glorious hockey sci-fi spectacle. It's better than the critical response earlier this year. That's true. The critics, I think, didn't quite get what I think the critics didn't quite get what they were watching. It's frantic, yes. It's visually overwhelming, yes. Okay, Alita Battle Angel has a slight problem, in my opinion. If you lose investment in the movie, at any point, if you lose focus, if you stop watching for a little while, it gets very complicated and throws you out of it. In order to watch Alita Battle Angel, you have to be focused on it, you have to be engaged with the movie. And that's why so many people loved it. Because it grips you from the beginning and gets you to the end in one roller coaster ride. And that's very rare in modern movies, to be fair. And of course, it ends not this for a sequel, because of its erasure from pop culture. Let's wait for the streaming and the DVDs to come out and people to see it, because we may see another John Wick type movie where its next movie makes even more money. I mean, people didn't flock to see Iron Man from the beginning, but the MCU got the $2 billion and change for Endgame because there were a lot of movies and people went to see them. Well, yes, there's the box office return, yes, it barely made its money. And of course, the article states that the fact that the movie sparked such devotion is not a surprise. It was adapted from a popular, if it is, I would say, old manga. It's a 90s manga. Many people didn't know that. I haven't read the manga, I haven't watched the anime before the movie. I just knew the name, and judging from other anime and manga adaptations from the past in Hollywood, I was not that thrilled to see it, but I heard very good comments about it, and I took the plans, and I was pleasantly surprised. Yes, it's a mostly original brand for many people who watched it. It had remarkable special effects, and the design was awesome. And was very old-fashioned in storytelling. That's a key for Alita Battle Angel, in my opinion. People loved Alita Battle Angel because it felt very old-school Hollywood. It felt very James Cameron. It was very emotional. It followed a very archetypical journey of the main character. It had very interesting characters. It never went into fourth wall breaking, into deconstruction, into the punk work and quickly verbalizing of the MCU. It wasn't snarky, it wasn't Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it was older than that, it was old school Hollywood. It was like the Terminator. And the Terminator 2, more specifically. And it was very sincere about it. It was a movie you had to go, you had to see it, you get the feels, you get the thrills, you love it. People, especially people that are older in age, as many of the people who have the Alita Army channels for Gen Xers understand that. They miss that. There are not many movies that do what Alita did. There are not that many modern yet old school movies. The other movie I can think that was like that, yes, it was Mad Max Fury Road. It was very old school despite the modern production. There is color, weight, yes, that's amazing. And the Iron City is great. It's I love the fact that it was not your traditional cyberpunk city. It felt very organic because it was full of junkyards. It had a very Latin feel because it was on Panama, because James Cameron thought that if there is a floating city, it should be on the equinox. It's scientifically more plausible than Milwaukee, I think, from Michigan, as it was in the manga. And the manga was manga about a girl, a cyborg girl, that was published in a magazine aimed towards adult men, and not in the creepy adult way. It was a seinen. It was an adventure story aimed at men, Japanese men in the age of 20 to 22, young professionals. That's where it was published on Business Jump. It was the older, it was the magazine, the big brother of Shonen Jump. For it was like Alita was supposed to be the manga you read after you're too old to read Dragon Ball. And Alita is a very joyous and heartwarming heroine. She discovers herself. That's great. She falls in love. That's okay. Alita in Alita Battle Angel had a very traditional boy hero journey. She's young. She's naive. She discovers the world. She sees a pretty thing and falls in love with him. He is not quite there yet. Doesn't quite like her, but she tries to please him. She grows, literally. There is this breast scene that triggered lots of people, and in my opinion was great. We'll get to that scene later on this video, because I really loved the scene. It was really amazing. Well, she grows, and that makes that pretty thing, Hugo, to see her in another way, with another eye, a fresh eye, and they even go so far towards the boy's journey that they actually freeze Hugo in order for Alita to go forward. And that's done in a way that feels very organic. Alita is still a girl, a teenage girl, and she has to go through not only girl stuff, because early on it's made quite clear that there is not much sexism in this world of Iron City. It's just a crappy place for everybody. And I think this discussion is not often done in the Alita Army videos. And I agree with that on the article. There is much sequel talk, much flexing, much conspiracy theories, to be honest. And I don't want to get there to this kind of videos. I'm a bit tired of endless outrage about the culture. It's very tiring. It moves the discussion away from what's important, and what's important is having fun, and I had a lot of fun watching Alita. There is a story about outrage tactics about the trolling of a journalist who made some I don't know, there's no link, I'm not sure about what they're talking about, so I'll skip that because that's basically what he says is that Alita has joined the culture war, which is not hard to do today because everything, all big budget movies, everything will go into the culture war eventually, and that's very sad. It was a great movie, and it says that Alita was positioned as a right-wing alternative to Captain Marvel, which I think it was, but for the wrong reasons. I think there were many people like me who have nothing to do with the right that enjoyed this movie. And that's the point I made this video about. It's baffling to talk of Alita Battle Angel as a political movie, which is true. Alita is a very political and a very woke movie. It's arguably even far more liberal than many of the SJW movies, which is true. It's not as radical as Fury Road was, and that's worth another video about how radical left Mad Max Fury Road was and how nobody complained about it. It features none of the military fetishism of Captain Marvel and none of the other problematic elements of Captain Marvel, but that's also another video. It didn't had lip service girl power, yes it didn't. Actually, early on in Alita Battle Angel, she meets Hugo and she goes to play rollerball with other children, and you have a boy that immediately knocks her down like she's another player. And what Alita does, she goes in and scores because she won't take the defeat, and people accept her. And I as a viewer already know that people consider boys and girls as equals. And of course there is this great breast scene that some people thought was sexist, and was not. As I said in my review of the movie, we have Alita that is put in another body. Okay, spoilers for those who haven't seen the movie yet. Alita is found as a head in a scrapyard by a cybernetic surgeon, and he puts her head on a child's body, on a body he had made for his sick daughter. And that's a very beautiful body, but it's not the body of a fighter. Alita is a fighter, so she goes on a fight, and thankfully the movie producers decided to remove some of the more for lack of better words, say problematic elements of the manga. The relationship between the cybernetic surgeon, Dokido, and Alita is a father-daughter relationship in the movie, and Dokido is worried that his little girl will get hurt. Of course, Alita won't take it. She goes and fights an evil cyborg, and she gets her old body demolished. So instead, she's put in a Martian warrior body, and that's her true body. And this body allows her to shape it the way she wants it to. In the manga, Dokido decides to give Alita a female body. In the movie, Alita gets a woman's body because that's how she views herself. Okay, she gets breasts because that's a woman, not a girl. Okay, and that people thought was problematic and it divided the male gaze, but as a man, let me tell you, this scene managed to get a very feminist theme of a girl growing up and unleashing herself from patriarchy, and also ties it to the theme of a child a teenager becoming an adult. So this scene, whatever some of the media say, some of the critics will say, even to the creepy incel who watches it, it's not spunk bunk material. It's more like that guy imagining himself getting out of his parents' basement. And Alita does that quite well. I mean, the author of the article mentions that the world is full of extreme inequality because it's cyberpunk and dystopia. And you cannot have PC dystopias. Unless, of course, it's Demolition Man. Alita foregrounds characters of color. Yes, it's a very Latinx movie, and I loved that because it was a very refreshing change of pace and scenery, and it's pretty much what proves that diversity is important. Not because you have to tick some items of a list, but because it gives a sense of fresh air to a tired genre without changing many of the tropes, and it works. And like many extreme poverty in South Modern America, one of the few means of social ascendance in Alita Battle Angel is via competitive sports. True. Its politics aren't subtle, but become even more blunt when articulated by its cast and crew. Okay, the politics are not subtle. The politics are not subtle. That's true. However, what Alita does great. Let's take Hugo's arc. We have this boy who wants to get out of the slums and go to the big city on the sky. And in order to do that, spoilers, he's tricked by the villain to prey on other people, steal their body parts and sell them in order to make money. And that is a great allegory about capitalism, about how the promise of the American dream, the promise of riches, can get people to turn crime and prey upon their fellow people. That's great. At the same time though, if you don't believe that's true, if your personal politics are more like hard work pays off, as more conservatives believe, then you can watch this movie and think something else. I mean, it's also very allegorical that you have Salem as a religious metaphor about how Satan builds a false kingdom on earth, and we have this angel girl who fell from the sky who tries to defeat him, and she has a flaming sword. Okay, she doesn't have wings, but there is a very strong angelic archetype to the movie too, and you can ignore all those metaphors and just watch a fun story about good and evil, or about how a bigger evil, the bigger villain, preys upon the weaknesses of the people on this Undersprawl, on Iron City. And that's great. That's how great movies are made. That's how great sci-fi is made. You get some truths of the human condition and you move them to another place, to another time. But you have them being there, and they work. They make the characters feel great. What Alita does amazingly well is that the entire story is based on the feelings, of the needs, of the principles, of the characters, and of their flaws. The characters fail, they pay the consequences, and this drives the story forward. And that leads to constant struggles between them. And that's something missing in many movies. Okay, the MCU does that amazingly well. And that's a reason for the success. Because you have some very strong characters with strong personalities who sometimes have opposing goals. And Alita does that amazingly well. But in a much more old school fashion. That's why people are ecstatic about it. Because it's a great movie. Okay, I know some real world toxicity will go into the fandom. But the polarization of fandom, the outrage culture, even the way this article is framed, the title, will make some people be defensive. Because they're not alt-right, or they don't view themselves as alt-right, and I'm not sure what alt-right is. True, after 2014 and the whole Gamergate debacle and all the other Gamergate-like movements like the Sad Puppies, like Comicsgate, the Phantom Menace, and what's the thing with the anime nowadays? Web Wars. There is so much polarization that it makes pop culture very it makes pop culture a minefield. It makes geekdom a minefield, and spreading towards normies to it's very sad, to be honest. Outrage culture is stupid, in my opinion. But nevertheless, yes, there is, of course, female characters cannot be likable and believable, blah blah blah. Okay, tell you what, Rosa Salazar is a sweetheart. She's very positive. She is very charismatic. She fills her 3D animated shoes very well. And she makes this movie so much better because of her acting and her personality. She's great, she's very lovable. Okay, she's Rosa Bianca Salazar, and this is the next wave of Latino casting. And yeah, I can see nothing wrong with that. Okay, I know there was a lot of Brie Larson controversy. There were people just making videos on videos about certain things she said, and they were getting views, and they were getting dollars, and that's how outrage works. You say stupid stuff for clicks and not dollars. Blah 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 blah. And you have controversies about Star Wars, The Last Jedi, Game of Thrones. You forgot Ghostbusters, which was the original gangster of this outrage. And of course you have forgotten some movies like Fury Road and Wonder Woman. Few people complained about. So yes, the Alita fandom is positive. It's people who love this movie, maybe people who were disappointed in other franchises they loved, because they tried to do lots of stuff that didn't work. And I'm looking at you, Star Wars, because very few of the new Star Wars movies did something good, in my humble opinion, of course. and people want a sequel made, and that's why you see so many drive about it. The Alita fandom wants people to go and see the movie on digital. They went and saw this movie in cinemas for many times, which is great. Yes, it's a movie that has to be witnessed for the Alita fandom, and I get that. I said to all my friends, go and make sure you see this movie, it's great. Because it was a great movie, and I hope there will be a sequel. Okay, the writer of this article disagrees. Well, okay, we all have the right to disagree. But yeah, I think that it doesn't quite get it. It's a very good movie that went unnoticed by the large populace. Maybe because of Captain Marvel, maybe because of the MCU, maybe because of the fatigue of many people with superhero and sci-fi movies, because there's so many of them that we're getting bored. They want to say something new. So instead, if you haven't seen Alita Battle Angel, then how did you manage to go through all this discussion about it? I don't know. What Alita Battle Angel offers is, it's not new. It's something old, something you have loved in the past, and it's very close to these old school sensibilities. And it's a very enjoyable movie. In my opinion, it was the best movie of 2019 up to now. Of course, there is Endgame, but Endgame cannot be judged the same way as any other movie, because it's something completely different. For me, it was the most enjoyable movie of 2019 to date. I haven't seen many, to be fair. It's a great movie, and it's worth to have 2 or 3 sequels. And we want to see, we deserve to see another movie like that. Because Alita, no matter what the fandom does, no matter the outrage, no matter the hashtags and the Twitter wars, I got on Twitter today after a long time, and it was a very sad, very disappointing experience. Okay, I digress. You have to see Alita. I will definitely see Alita as soon as possible for a second time, and I hope I will enjoy it the same way as I did the first time. I don't think I can enjoy it more than the first time, because it was an amazing rollercoaster ride. No matter the negativity, no matter the politics, word about me, any combination of letters, I'll take it, and have fun.